Continuing with Project 1 letterhead design, we are now on Stage 2, page 33, creating basic page elements. We know from Photoshop and Illustrator that we have both vector graphics and raster images that we can put into these files, and we are going to begin by creating a simple line. So we're going to be creating a vector image. Make sure that you have nothing selected. Click on your pasteboard so that you have nothing there. Check your properties panel if you must. You'll see just the document. When you have nothing else selected, you can see that the properties come up and you actually can make adjustments in here to the page itself. We're not going to adjust layouts, but just note that these things are all possible over here. We can use the page numbers here to navigate. Now, of course, we only have one page, but if we had 3 or 4 or more pages, we would be able to use this drop down to navigate to the different page numbers. We can use the 3 buttons in the grids and rulers section to toggle the visibility of our rulers. So we can turn our rulers off and on. We can get rid of our rules and guides if we need to, or we can add grids so that we can put in more things. So here's your lock and unlock to change your guides, and you also have smart guides. Now let's make sure that our smart guides are on, and yes, you can see we do have smart guides. We will be using those. Make sure you read the section on page 34. It goes over the control panel. Now remember, just like we had with Photoshop and Illustrator, you pick up a different tool and everything is contextual. If, like me, you don't have your control panel showing, you can go up to Window and bring your control panel out. Then you will be able to tell that depending on which thing you pick up for a tool, your control panel is going to change, because remember, your control panel is contextual, and anything that you pick up is going to affect what is available in your control panel. So if you're drawing, you're going to get something different than if you're using your type tool. Go over page 34 in your book. You get a lot of the same things showing up in your properties panel, so realize that they are going to be working together. However, you're not going to get quite the same items in both places. So we did make sure that our smart guides are working, and we're going to now pick up our line tool, and we are going to zoom in towards the bottom of the page so that we can actually see the rulers, and we are going to click at the left bleed and drag to the right, and then we will put our line in the correct position. Now you can hold down your shift key as you drag so that you can keep that to a perfect straight line. And we should have our default fill and stroke. I actually don't have default. I'm going to set my default fill and stroke right now. Default fill and stroke for the line tool is a black 1-point line and no fill. In either the control panel or the properties panel, you can now increase that to a 2-point stroke, and you can click and drag with your selection tool, or you can use your control panel or your property panel. We want this to be at the 9 3/4 mark. So we are going to change our position here for the Y value, because remember, X is horizontal, Y is vertical, and you always measure from the top left-hand corner down. So we are going to type in the 9.75 inches there and have our line move for us. Next, we're going to be picking up our pen tool and using the feedback that we're going to get in the property panel, as well as using the marks that are going to show up, the guides that are going to pop up as we're moving the pen tool around. We want to line up with that 4.5 points, and we're going to add a point to the line. So at 4.5 points, click on the line when you get the add point with the little plus sign, which then changes to a minus, so it could be removed. And we want to also add another point at the 6-inch line. So let's go over to 6 inches, and we're going to put that also on the line there. Now pick up the direct selection tool, click away from the line to deselect it. Now of course we can't see the line. We're going to move the cursor over the right section of that line, and you're going to see the little small line with that icon so that you can click on that line and select it. So click anywhere between that last point and the end point to select the line. Press your shift key and drag down until your cursor feedback shows that you have a Y position of 10.2 inches. Almost there. Yeah, I've gone a little past. 18, 19. Okay, I'm having a little trouble with it. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit closer. The larger that this screen is, the easier time you're going to have moving this. Again, holding my shift key down, let me grab that line, and I can move that a lot easier. Then using the direct selection tool again, you're going to click that second point from the left, which is point 2. That's the one there. You can see it now that you're zoomed into it because you're really tight to it. Now that we've zoomed in really close, you can actually see that point a whole lot better, so you can select that point, and we're going to change the X value on that so it reads 4.875, which is 7/8 of an inch, I believe. You can really control very precisely every point in a shape. Save your file, and then we're going to move on to creating some curves. We want to have that line selected again, and this time under the pen tool we're going to select, remember, the convert direction point tool. We're going to change to smooth points. So we're going to click on that second point on the line, holding your shift key down then, and drag to the right to create a curve. We want to drag until the ruler shows the cursor at 5.625 of an inch. So let's see where we're going. I'm not getting my feedback, but I can see it up in transform. There. Clicking and immediately dragging with the convert direction point tool is going to add those direction handles to the point. We've done this same thing in Illustrator. Then on the next point, the third one, you're going to click on that, hold down your shift key and drag to the right again. See what happens when you drag to the left is it actually is bowing out the other direction. So we want to again drag to the right until the cursor is at 6.5. So right when we get to 6.5 inches, and depending on how accurate you are, you may not quite get the 6.5, but that's fine too. And then it'll pop back to the position that the point actually is at. Next, you're going to pick up the pen tool again. Move the cursor over the left end point of the line. You may have to slide over, use either your the bottom, or you're going to take, if you hold down your space bar, you'll temporarily move to the hand. So we're going to put our pen over the end point. That's actually going to give you a slash line on there on the cursor icon, and that means you're going to add a point. So if we click on that point to add, we should be able to click and add a fresh point at the bottom bleed, and then slide over to the corner and back up to the top. So we've now created an enclosed area, and we should be able to then fill that. Let's make sure that this is indeed an enclosed shape. Should be. I'm just going to move this, and it moves all together, so it is an enclosed shape, and then I'm going to undo that. And again, you should save. Now, just because we have this shape that we're dealing with, and we have this thing about the bleed and where the bleed edge comes, and we want to make sure that the shape itself is being considered and not the edge. So what we want to do next is go up to the control panel, and we're going to look at some of the other options. And if you have this dimensions include stroke weight check, uncheck that. What that's going to do is change what we're seeing up here from, let me go back in and put that back on. You can see 8.6389 because of the weight of the stroke. So if we clear the stroke weight off of that, you can see that the shape itself is actually an 8.625 width. Then at the bottom of your tools panel, you're going to swap the fill and stroke so that we have a fill of that's black, and the stroke is going to be none. If you don't have your colors panel open, go to Window, Color, Color. That's going to bring up your color panel, making sure that the object is selected. Make sure that you bring your fill to the front. Go to the options and show your CMYK sliders. In your cyan, you're going to change the color to an 85% cyan, tab to magenta, put in 50%, and your yellow should be at 85, and black should be at 40%. Hit enter, and you have changed your color to this lovely shade of green. With the object selected and the fill swatch at the top of the stack, you're going to now add this to your swatches. So go up to color and add to swatches. Now save your file, and next we will move on to creating a basic graphics frame.